All right, we're dealing with 72 Fahrenheit, 210,252 miles on the odometer. It's May 23rd, 2024. Going back to boxing stats, professional boxing stats, the W stands for win, the L stands for loses, the D stands for draw. So I'm doing more research. Tyson stats are 50 wins, 6 losses, and 2 draws. He has 44 knockouts. It's not the same as Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali has more fights, but their losses are very similar, if not exact, I think. George Foreman even has more fights, and that'll increase the wins as well. George Foreman and Mike Tyson never fought, but he did fight Larry Holmes and beat him. Tyson beat Holmes. The first time he ever got knocked out was by Buster, which ended his... Larry Holmes and Mike Tyson both have 44 knockouts. Winning streak. Anyway, watching some Jake Paul. Okay, Jake Paul started off on Vine, 10 years old, him and his brother. They look very similar. They did very well, millions and millions of subscribers, all that kind of stuff on Vine. Vine dropped the company, so they had to switch everything over to YouTube. Disney got involved. They picked up Jake Paul. He was working for Disney on his way to being something like, I don't know, what's that guy's name? Ryan Gosling kind of thing. He was becoming kind of a Disney star. Disney dropped the program. He went into boxing, and now he's an American boxer. And he does have a pretty big YouTube page. But, you know, stats aren't everything. I mean, look at my channel. I got almost 14,000 posts. So I got 14,000 videos. And I only have 770 odd subscribers. Some guys are in the millions, some guys are in the thousands. Some are even, you know, I mean, one of my goals is to get to 1,000 subscribers. But now, when I'm looking at everything, it takes time to study. I can see that this Tyson and Paul fight is probably going to be an expedition fight, so it's just for fun. But it doesn't mean that they're, you know, really going to... I don't know how they count an expedition fight. I don't know much about professional boxing career. But the last fight that Tyson had ended in an RTD. And that basically means they retire in the corner due to something. It means that they throw in the towel. And he had lost 2 times before that, and that would gain his total 6 losses. And that goes on his career, you know, so he has to have that on his ticket. So 50, 5-0, and 6, and then with the 2 draws is not a bad career at all. It's not undefeated, but it's pretty close. 44 knockouts is not bad at all. I want to say there's another fighter that has 44 knockouts, and I want to say it's Muhammad Ali. I'd have to look at George Foreman's career too, but there's another fighter that has a lot of knockouts. Now, if we could adjust time and time travel, it'd be cool to see a Muhammad Ali and Tyson fight. That would be a good fight, but the ages just didn't match up. And I'll do more research later. Tyson has a pretty incredible career, but this is going to be probably an expedition fight. This is going to be kind of for show. Probably the reason why is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Jake Paul wants to be world champion, so he may learn a lot from this fight, and it might help him on his, you know, on his career. I don't know what they do with expedition fights when it comes to professional career. I don't know how they count it. But will Jake Paul move up? I did see his only and first loss. He was undefeated, and he lost against a guy named Fury. I think it's Tommy Fury. He was a Saudi Arabian fighter. It was a good fight. I personally would have judged, if I was a judge, I would probably have said that fight went to Jake Paul, meaning Jake Paul won that fight. Because Jake Paul got the knockout. The knockdown. It was a knockdown, not a knockout. He knocked him down right before the 8th round. They went 8 rounds. Now, each round in boxing is 3 minutes. They can go up to 10 and sometimes 12, even 15 rounds. They can adjust the rules depending on the fighters. They did that with Tyson. It's all depending on the league and what's going on with everybody in the career. But in most cases, it's always going to be 3-minute rounds. Not a whole lot of time to get something done. You only have so much time to knock them down or knock them out. Other than that, it's going to be left to possible draw, or it could be left, you know, of course, the decision of the judges. And that's called by decision. But usually on the stats, on the screen, they're going to put W, L, and D. W means wins, L means losses, and D means draw. They'll talk about decisions, they'll talk about knockouts, and sometimes they do put knockouts on there. And sometimes they even put like a big, a whole lot so you can study the fighter. But ultimately, it's not a huge career. Like, he's only 27. Jake Paul's only 27. He's still very early in his career. Tyson started at the age of 18. And he didn't win his first bout until 246 days in his professional career, if I'm not mistaken. Something around that number. So he was 249. I think it's 249 days in his career. That's very early in training when he commits to be a professional boxer and goes into the whole entire thing, and it begins, right? He only has so many days for that first fight. That's less than a year. And he knocked the guy out, knocked the next guy out, knocked the next guy out, knocked the next guy out, all the way until he got to Buster. Butterflies are here. They're at the garden. They're going until April, probably about April 14th. You can see dinosaurs for about $12. The dinosaurs around the world. Don't know what they look like. I talked to Linda about it. She thinks $12 is too high. We're budgeting. Could be good. No vlog so far. Nothing on Facebook, nothing online. I've been looking around. I haven't seen anything. Could be a good exhibit. I don't know. If you're into dinosaurs and stuff, T-Rex and all that stuff, it could be a good thing. The Brontosaurus is probably in there. Pterodactyl, little flying thing. Big old bat with a long beak. 535, 4, 1. Parking lot. All right, second one, 8:29, 8:28, 8 minutes, 3.5. All right, let's see what we got here. Yeah, let me go ahead and zero that one out. That's from yesterday. I zero those two out. Surrealism and Us at the Modern in Fort Worth, right off Darnell Street. Surrealism and Us, Modern Art Museum, going on right now. Casa Mary Poppins is on its way, and they're gonna bring Grease in June. Next one, 936-82.7. Yeah, one of the guys in the kitchen was asking me, you know, well, how long you live in New York? And I was like, about a year. I moved there 2001 in August, about a month before September 11th of 2001. And I lived in Brooklyn for a little while, and then I moved in Manhattan right off of I lived at 38 East 21st Street, apartment 3A3. I think that's how they said it. I think the zip code, if I'm not mistaken, was 10010. But anyway, it was right there between Broadway and Park Avenue. And Winona Ryder was living in Gramercy at the time. She was running from the media. She went to New York because of her shoplifting incidents where she stole a few $100,000 worth of jewelry. Got caught on camera. Why she did that, no one really understands. But anyway, she was there. I was kind of looking for a little bit. Well, actually not her. I was looking for really like any famous person around the area. My friend ran into Carrot Top. I talked to Benicio del Toro, Kevin Costner, Will Smith, Sissy Spacek. This is all actor studio drama school at the New School University at the Parsons Theater, I think, is where they filmed it. James Lipton. It was back when James Lipton, when they had that little dome-looking black one, the David Lynch music would come up, and it would be like the little dome. Well, it was like an archway kind of thing. It was when they were there, not when they were at the Pace. This is when they were at the New School. It was back when Sean Baker was studying intensive editing. I think he studied non-linear editing. I didn't use it a whole lot in Tangerine. And then there was a guy named Bradley Cooper who was in cohort 5. I think he had just graduated and was doing Wet Hot Summer and all that kind of stuff. First guy that we saw was Bruce Willis on a Monday, September 10th of 2001. The next day was September 11th, 2001. Bruce Willis was interviewed on that Monday, the day before. I don't know where Bruce Willis was when it happened, but he was interviewed on that Monday night. That was the first interview, was Bruce Willis. He stuttered quite a bit too. He stutters, but not when he's acting, but in interviews, he's kind of a stutterer. Very strange moment. I thought Bruce Willis's interview was the most mysterious out of all of them, other than Johnny Depp. And Johnny Depp was a sold-out house. Like, it was packed. People were paying for our seats because we're the students. We were allowed to be there. But every student that graduated from that year and on, everybody was in that one Parsons Theater. The whole thing was packed, standing room only. Couldn't even get in the lobby. You had to squeeze through the lobby. If I didn't show up early, or if I didn't show up on time, I wouldn't have got in. Ben Kingsley, I came in late, and I had to sit on the, they made me sit on the balcony. So I was looking down on Ben Kingsley through the whole interview. But yeah, there was a lot of people that year. If I can, at the top of my head, and I always mess up, it was Bruce Willis, somewhere in there, Ethan Hawke showed up for the interview. Nicolas Cage was supposed to be there, but he was in Europe, so it was replaced. There was, of course, Benicio del Toro. Kevin Costner was, I think, the second one. So it was Bruce Willis, and I think Kevin Costner came second. I have to look at the roster. Sissy Spacek eventually. Deborah Winger was there. I didn't get to ask her a question. I thought she was pretty cool. Johnny Depp showed up. There was, I'm trying to think of the others. I know Ethan Hawke was one. Sissy Spacek, Deborah Winger. And the second year was people, it ended with Sir Ian McKellen. But there was Hugh Grant. I think it was the guy that blinks a whole lot. That was in 4 Weddings and a Funeral. I think his name is Hugh Grant. He was there. He doesn't like Porsches. Or he doesn't like Porsche. He calls it Porsche. He likes to eat nuts. He likes to eat peanuts during the interview, or at least during the educational part of it, where they talk to the students. Let's see. Samuel Jackson, Will Smith. I got to talk to Will Smith about Bagger Vance. Samuel Jackson was there. Ben Kingsley. Yeah, Ben Kingsley was interviewed. And then eventually Sir Ian McKellen. I always miss like one. Then there was Billy Bob Thornton, because Will Ferrell had made fun of James Lipton, and they made a skit with Billy Bob Thornton was supposedly sniping James Lipton on the street, but it was actually Will Ferrell. They made this little Saturday Night Live skit because they're making fun of James Lipton. So Billy Bob Thornton was there. I got to talk to Billy Bob too about The Gift. It's a lot. It's a lot to process. I mean, Bob Lavelle, before he passed away and stuff, and he was one of our coaches. He said it would take years to process everything. Now, for my acting training, which was at the Actor Studio, the two major ones that were teaching during the Christmas vacation was Ellen Burstyn and Estelle Parsons. Estelle Parsons won an Oscar for a movie called Bonnie and Clyde. And then Estelle Parsons, who won an Oscar, I believe within that year, was Requiem for a Dream. She was there too. She was doing, I guess, like workshops at the Actor Studio. And then that's off 44th. Right by Birdland. And I was there for that. And I didn't get to speak. They usually don't let you speak, you know, like when you're first there. You only can observe. So I got to sit up where Anthony Hopkins would sit, up in the balcony above, and to look down. You're not allowed to sit on the main floor unless you're an actual lifetime member, which I'm not. I'm not one. I never auditioned for that. I only auditioned for the master's program, so the Actor Studio Drama School. But many of the Actor Studio Drama School students that got their MFA, they are members too. But I mostly wanted to study it. Didn't really know if I was going to do the whole 3 years from the beginning. I thought I would try it. I definitely wanted to do 1 year. I don't know. I think at that time I was trying to get back to Hollywood, to get back to my car, which eventually my mom went and got the car during this whole training thing when I went to New York, and I left the car in her parking garage, kind of like another 48 hours kind of thing, or 48 hours, like Eddie Murphy and Nick Nolte. I left the car in a parking garage under this hotel, and my mom and stepdad went and got it and drove down Mulholland Drive and stuff like that, and then returned it back to Fort Worth. But I was trying to get back to the car. I was trying to get back to my career, and I've been here for 20 years. This is a little bar. They brought in a famous country and western singer here not very long ago. Yeah, there's Tulip's little speed racer car coming up this way. Yeah, if I would have made it to that second year, I would have seen Martin Scorsese interviewed. De Niro had already interviewed years before. That's when Cooper got to talk to him about Awakenings. But if I would have made it to the second year, I would have seen Martin Scorsese interviewed. I probably would have asked him about Taxi Driver. I don't know what I would have said, though. It's hard to say. I don't know if I would have talked about like a specific moment or an overall kind of general question, but it would have been probably about that movie, because it's on my top. Like, it's at the top of the list so far. I probably would have told him that, but it's at the top of my list when it comes to movies. It's a tough movie. It's a tough movie to kind of stand behind because of all the psychos and things that are connected to it. It's kind of what it is, what it's become, is it's kind of what I call it a Catcher in the Rye movie. Because back then in the day, if you had a copy of Catcher in the Rye, more than likely you were going to end up like Hinckley, or what was the other guy? Mark David Chapman, you know, the man with no name that shot Lennon. They all like had this copy of Catcher in the Rye. But I think it was Hinckley that quoted Taxi Driver and Jodie Foster or something. I don't know if I would have talked about that. Maybe I might have. I don't know. Probably may not have, but maybe, because it was an interesting moment in like history where a movie was being referenced in a very violent act against, I believe it was Reagan. Yeah, it was Reagan. I remember when Reagan got shot too. I remember exactly where I was. I was sitting in front of the tube television in Keller, Texas, right off Randall Mill. My dad was just completed the outer structure of his first mansion that he bought. My dad was one of the first millionaires of the 1980s in Southlake. He built one of the first mansions. And I ran from the house off Randall Mill lane, all the way across this field, all the way across the road to where my dad was talking to some clients and showing off the house that he was building. And I ran into the house and told my dad, the president's been shot. And he took a moment and said, whoa, I was waiting for that to happen. And it turned out to be Hinckley who did it, who was very, very... Now, he's free now. Hinckley's free. He's free to go anywhere he wants. He can get on rideshare, drive around, go to the library, go shopping. Hinckley's completely free. They released him. Now, it almost killed Reagan. The bullet pierced his lung. And Reagan didn't even know it until he started coughing up and foaming at the mouth when he was in the car. But several of his Secret Service took the bullets, and several of them were shot. And when they interviewed Hinckley, he started talking about Taxi Driver and Jodie Foster and all this stuff. And they knew at that point that he was completely delusional. But anyway, that's what went down. I don't know if I would have mentioned that, or cinematography, or trying to think of my perspective at the time. I probably would have mentioned something to do with De Niro's performance, since I was acting major. But you have to find a question that's going to stay and fit into the public's eye that would make sense. Talking about a gesture is important. If you talk about like a gesture or behavior of the actor and where it's coming from. I might have, what I always talk about, what I mentioned to David Lynch, when I met him at Inland Empire in Dallas, at the premiere of Inland Empire. I talked about improvisation and script writing. What I probably would have maybe have said is how much improvisation was in Taxi Driver. And that's a little sensitive question, though. The directors will sit up because they like the idea that they wrote everything. Because the word will outlast the heaven and earth. The word will outlast everything, the actual word, the words they use, especially if it's written down. That's a powerful thing. When they write something down, it's their idea. They take those words and they make it into whoosh. They like that idea, or they draw the storyboard, and then they like the idea of creating that. When you find something on set and it becomes improv, and there was an improv, it's are you talking to me? Or you talking to me? Who you talking to? You talking to me? Who you effing talking to? All that was improv. Because De Niro was only to do it one time. They did different colors and different takes, and he used it all, and that was... I didn't know that at the time. At the time, I didn't know that. But that might have been my question. I would have said something like, what type of improvisation was used on set? You're all the way from Florida. 10-15-6, 3.2.